I would express great gratitude for those that understand what it means to actually have solace and to not put their mind to anything that is overly continuous and stress. And the things that we have to analyze as individuals is our focus on how life will flow through us to where everything will be given to us. In the spirit realm, things happen that you can't see happening here in the physical realm because they're both different. One is distinct from the other, but yet they are correlated for everything that happens in one realm here on earth. What people do, what people take action, there's a chain reaction that happens in the other realm outside of the realm that one is currently in. You see, we have to see things with spiritual eyes. We have to see that people in this world aren't our enemy. It's what's inside of people that pose as an enemy. There are spirits that are operating through people day by day, and they are operating at a level that creates a atmosphere of deceit. And we know that if we are walking as shadow warriors that are of light, we are going to be attacked heavily by whatever is operating through a person on the street, a person that could be a co-worker in where you work. It could be where you are sitting on a subway train. It could be on an airplane. It could be someone living in your own house. You could be living in someone's house and they are operating with a powerful spirit that will mock you simultaneously for being simply who you are. You see, a person could choose to just look at you and not like anything about you just because you are a reminder of what they see every single day. Your energy travels in a very significant amount of transformation, that is happening, all around people who do not see themselves in anything that is transformative. They see you that represents a tree of life. You hold something that is a candle that can't be put out of its flame. And this is why people will try to detect you, to find whatever method to suppress you. They'll say that the things that you are trying to do, what is good, is not good enough. They'll say that your level of understanding and wisdom is something that is not built enough. They'll say that you need to retreat. You need to fall back. You need to just relax. You need to detach. They'll say everything to get you out of your concentration on where it is that you are willing to go. They will try to shun all of the things of knowledge that you have so that they'll stop you from trying to grow. It's that simple. And I'm saying all this is because some of us have just been chosen to the point where we don't belong, with the rest of the world because we simply just don't fit in. And it's because the more that you get revelation upon revelation, there's going to be people's accusation upon accusation. And the more that you stay to yourself, the more that you continue to pray just you to God, and God is your resource. He is your provider of source. He is the money supply. He is the food supply. He is the shelter supply. And He is also your life, and He is also what is time that is beyond spent. He gives you everything that is well kept, well accustomed. Think of everything that you may experience. God is the adjuster. to all of the things that you go through. And people cannot define who you are by what they perceive of you and determine that this is what is absolute. And the things that people spread as far as rumors, gossip about someone that they just want to take out, that they see an enemy, they see something that threatens their position of where they see themselves with insecurity, and their position that they're looking at is potentially being faltered. They look at themselves as if your light is going to cast them asunder. You know, it says to let your light shine before men, and be that which is a light that is in this world. That is your spoken message, is you simply being a light that people cannot dismiss. You know, your overall presentation is how you live your life, and people will understand just by seeing you how you live your life, and they will have a clear picture that is right in front of them, that they're not going to say something that is not of you, that is speaking for itself. Your words, you know, the power that you have ascended, things that God has already molded you in transcendence. Every time when you are operating, you know, in the will of God, that He has planted seeds for you to become, just like when there was the transfiguration on the mount, when Jesus himself was with John and he was with Elijah, and they swept up to heaven, where God showed Peter that this is my son and I am well pleased. He showed that Jesus was the Christ. And Peter, he ended up denying Jesus thrice because of fear that came upon him after he said that he would go to the very ends of the earth to die if it meant for Christ. And Jesus said that as the rooster crows 3 times, you will deny me. And he didn't believe that he would deny Jesus until he was in that confronting situation where they saw him and they said, you were the man who was with Jesus. You were one of his followers. Peter denied him, saying, I don't know what you were talking about. I don't know who you were speaking about. I do not know the man. To 3 different people that accused and that referenced him. And when he heard the crow 3 times, you know, he remembered what Jesus said, that you would deny me. And he wept bitterly. He was broken beyond his own spirit. And he was broken to where everything that he gave up to follow Jesus, it felt like he had forsaken his birthright. Everything that was of a sacrifice, he unsacrificed, he felt in that moment. And that's what it can be like when someone really betrays what is of their birthright spiritually. You could go to what someone says of what they'll offer you in the world, and you end up taking it because of, you know, potential power that is tempting, potential wealth that is tempting, that could be tied to blood money, and you don't even look at it to where something that is of the world, that could be coming from a source that is bent from evil, and because someone offers you as a way of a quick escape of all of what may be your problems that you may be going through, you could easily fall and just decide, let me take that wealth, even though it is ungodly wealth. You could fall in that ungodly relationship just for a moment of pleasure that is deceiving, because the devil doesn't come simply through the back door, through the front door. He comes through the back door. And the devil will tempt you in very subtle ways. He will take something that looks so innocent but is so deadly. Alcohol could look like it is something that is so innocent that it's just an ordinary drink, right? And you compromise based off of people that you want to appease, that you end up being so caught up in because of how they sound when they speak, how they may, say all things to big you up and to act like they are true social peers, but yet they are everything that Jesus says, to come away from. But you get allured because in this world, the devil tempts us with status. He tempts us with wanting to be recognized. He tempts us with everything that can give us some sort of attention, power. These are all the things that the devil uses to tempt us when we feel alone. And when you keep your eyes distracted, if you turn your eyes away from God, seeking Him, you're going to end up seeking the things that are all around you that are of this temporary world that we are in. You're going to find another God that you will seek after that is not coming from the living God. And I say this for those out there who this message is for, is to be careful, because people will trap you, even those who truly say that they have your best interest. They have what is of their own interest at heart when they're looking to use you simply as a mechanism for their control. And people want ultimately to look out for themselves first. Religious people will say everything that is what looks instructional and that looks like they really believe in faith and that they exercise faith that is godly according to the Bible that they read, and that they believe that they're practicing spiritual seekers, but yet they're not operating from the spirit that is of Christ Himself. They are operating from a false, belief of their own Christianity, and they don't believe in, for example, healing that can actually take place today. They don't believe that a person who is sick, who is mute, who has a illness, a sickness of any kind that can be healed today, that Jesus doesn't heal people today. And that they'll say that, well, it's meant for you possibly to suffer and to have a disease that is chronological, because it's God's will that not everyone gets healed. When you hear anyone say that, you know that they're not speaking, from God's will, because it says for someone who is a believer, who is a follower, to lay hands on the sick and call upon the name of the Lord for that person to be healed in the name of Christ. And it says it in the Word, ask and you receive, knock and the door shall be open, seek and you shall find. And nothing of God's Word returns void. And what these people are speaking is, the opposite that God has commanded. And when you realize that someone is speaking another gospel, the gospel that we know that has set you free, that has given you a way to become not what is of you in your own thinking, in your own imagination of how you feel about the world, that you think that the world is, that there is something greater that you're seeing by the gospel, that is what is not inside of you by man's wisdom, man's textbooks on studying how to become educated. It is something that is eternal, that is a being that is supreme, that can do all things that no man can actually do in the physical world or in the spiritual world. But God can do everything in the spiritual world and the physical world to make anything that in this world by itself that is damaged to become completely whole. A physical body that has blemish, God can make him completely whole, because he is omniscient, he is eternal, he is forever, he is the scope of all jewels that are ever made that could be fathomed on any scale, any colorization pattern of anything remotely sophisticated with a name tied to it, a symbol factor. God is the representation of all that has a name to describe something that is perfect in its own right. God is bigger than perfection. God is greater than what he has made as far as a universe from a non-universe. And he has taken that which is blank, beyond void, that is of all things that we don't even know, that are of nothingness, to something that is of everything that exists. You think of every word that is ever being said from every person, wherever they are, all throughout the world, everything that God hears, that is something that is being called to make something even become intuition in existence by the power of what people say. Something could come to life that would never even exist unless people's words say something that give way for a life to come about, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, whether it's godly, or whether it is worldly. What you say has an effect on how something of what it is that you're speaking of could come about by you calling upon whatever name that you're alleging yourself spiritually to. If you allege yourself, your allegiance is to what is the God of this world, that gives people things that they ask for, that they want to hear. They agree that the devil, who comes in all different disguises, through money, through recognition, through ambition, through just all of the currents that are of earthly moving spiritual waves to their advantage. The devil will make everything look like it's easy for you to get whatever it is that you want. If you're selling your soul, in a sense, and you give yourself to the promises that the enemy is speaking over you, and you're accepting, it's only for the purpose in the end for you to be taken out of everything that God has given you, specifically to you, that you were to use what was a gift for him, and now you have walked down the path that is no longer the gifts that were for him, but the gifts now you're using for yourself and for the enemy, so that you lose everything of yourself in the end, and you still think that you're going to enter into heaven. Meaning that 1 foot in the world and 1 foot in the kingdom are those who are people that sit in church and they read their Bibles, but they never heard a confirmation or a message from God. They never heard anything of a revelation given out to them by God for their life. They never sought out to be in the will of God. But yet, they act very religious to where they look like they're really believing and that they're truly genuine and sincere, which they do come across. But yet, if there was someone in the street that was a beggar, that was in some addiction on the streets, if they were homeless, they wouldn't give any sort of resource to help that person if they were in need. Like when it says to give to the one who asks, they simply would say, let somebody of the state take care of that person. That person put that particular situation that that person is in on themselves. They did it to themselves. And we can't, enable people. See, look at how when you see people look down on people and they say it's their fault because they're in the streets, and they turn a blind eye and they have this self of their own interest that they don't want to be bothered by someone that looks like they're in need. These are the people who say all the right things that sound very charitable, but their actions refuse the very charity that they speak of. And this is why someone could be in church and yet not have a calling from God. I'm saying this is because we live to where things are backwards. Right and wrong is not what you used to see it as. Everything today is completely everyone out for themselves. There is murders that are happening constantly, like when you go places in like the city and you see like there are stories of people being stabbed, people being haunted, people being attacked mentally, literally, for no reason. And it's happening more consistently. It's a spirit that's operating through people who are controlled by every entity that is of these spirits. And I'm just speaking about, we have to get back to really just praying, really just seeking the hour when His will be drawn for those that are meant to be in His will.